Some things the ocean never lets go, and some things never let you go. I remember the night the call came through, like it was yesterday. The kind of call that makes your stomach knot and your pulse quicken. A faint, panicked voice crackled through the radio. A diver had vanished somewhere off the northern coast, swallowed whole by the dark waters that stretched farther than the eye could see. The night was alive with the sound of waves crashing against jagged rocks, and the wind carried the salt and cold like it was mocking me. Fog rolled in thick, swallowing everything beyond the beam of the lighthouse. And for a moment, I felt the ocean itself breathe around me. When I arrived, the water was black and merciless, stretching into infinity with nothing to mark where danger ended and the abyss began. I stood there, listening, hoping for some rational explanation, some ordinary accident. But deep down, I already knew. Some calls don't warn you. They demand you witness the unimaginable. The diver was gone, and yet, whatever lingered in that darkness wasn't finished with him, or with me. I've heard signals in the dead of night. Strange, low-frequency pulses that make your chest tighten. Whispers in the wind that hint at something alive beneath the surface. Something that watches. And I can tell you this, the things I've seen out there, in the crushing infinite black, are not stories you're supposed to hear, but tonight you will. 10 encounters, 10 glimpses of a hidden world beneath the waves, each one darker, more horrifying than the last. And if you listen closely, if you dare, you might begin to understand why some secrets belong only to the ocean, and why some are never meant to let you go. Story 1. The Vanishing Crew. It started like any other morning. The sun barely breached the horizon, painting the sky in muted shades of orange and gray. The sea was calm, almost deceptively serene, as our small fishing boat cut through the gentle waves. "Looks like an easy haul today," Mark called out, his voice carrying over the soft slap of water against the hull. I nodded, tightening my grip on the railing, feeling the familiar rhythm of routine settle over me. But then, it happened. One moment, we were hauling nets full of wriggling fish. The next, a sudden unnatural fear rolled in, dense and choking. Visibility dropped to nothing. "Where'd the shore go?" Sarah shouted, panic creeping into her voice. The boat's engine stuttered, as if the ocean itself had a hand on the throttle. I squinted, straining to see my crew. But all I could make out were vague shadows, distorted in the gray mist. And then one by one, they were gone. Mark's laugh froze mid-sentence. Sarah's hands vanished as if swallowed by the fog. And the deck beneath my feet felt impossibly empty. My own heart raced in disbelief. "This isn't possible," I yelled, but my words were swallowed by a silence so thick it pressed against my ears. The nets, the fish, even the equipment, all remained eerily untouched. It was as if they had simply ceased to exist, taken by something older and darker than the sea itself. I drifted in that grey, suffocating void, the distant hum of some unseen current, the only sound, until finally the fog thinned. And yet, a chilling thought gnawed at me. This wasn't an isolated incident. Boats, crews, explorers vanished without trace, connected only by whispers of the same relentless force beneath the waves. And I knew deep down that if you stare too long at that endless horizon, it stares back, waiting for the next hand to claim. Story 2. The Lighthouse Whisperer. They say solitude sharpens the mind, but out here, on the edge of the world, it does something far worse. I was the keeper of the old lighthouse, perched on jagged cliffs where the waves smashed like ancient hammers. Nights were the worst, silent save for the wind, and that's when I first heard it. Whispers curling up from the ocean, soft, deliberate, like someone or something was speaking just to me. At first, I laughed it off. Great, I muttered to the empty room. Even the ocean's talking back now. But the humor faded quickly when the whisper started replying, names I shouldn't have known, details I hadn't told a soul. My mind fraying as each night stretched longer than the last. Sleep became a memory, and I began to see shapes, shadows, darting in the corner of my vision, fleeting and liquid, slipping just beyond my reach. "Who's there?" I shouted one night, slamming my lantern against the wall. Only the ocean answered, in that low, sibilant murmur that made my skin crawl. Paranoia became a friend, fear a constant companion. Sometimes I imagined the whispers were warning me, guiding me, or perhaps laughing at me, waiting for the moment I'd step off the cliffs in blind obedience. I've since learned that those voices are not harmless. Mariners speak of lighthouses where disasters began with a single unheeded warning. And some say the same whispering wind carries secrets that topple ships and shatter lives, messages no one should hear, instructions no one should follow. And yet, here I am, alive, only because I ignored the last one, barely. But I know the ocean remembers, and its whispers, they never stop. Story 3. The Depths of Silence. Descending alone into the abyss, the world above disappeared in a blur of blue and sunlight. The deeper I went, the more the pressure pressed against my chest, my ears popping with every meter, my breath shallow and measured, Silence wrapped around me like a thick shroud. Even my own heartbeat sounded foreign. Muffled in the water, I told myself it was routine, that I was trained for this. But nothing could prepare me for what came next. At first, it was only a shadow, larger than any known creature, gliding effortlessly through the ink-black water. My flashlight trembled in my hand, slicing a weak, desperate beam that barely grazed its edges. It moved with purpose, intelligence that chilled me deeper than the crushing pressure ever could. Every instinct screamed to ascend, to escape, but my body refused to listen. The ocean had remembered Manvish, or perhaps it had been waiting. I tried to focus, to rationalize, whispering to myself, it's just a trick of the light, just a deep sea anomaly. But the shape grew, and the air around me seemed to pulse, as if the ocean itself were alive and breathing. My air tank hissed, and I realized that each exhale was a countdown, each movement a negotiation with a predator older than any human memory. I saw nothing but its silhouette, yet I felt it everywhere, above, below, beside me, hunting, studying, waiting. When I finally broke the surface, shaking and gasping, I wasn't alone in my fear. Other divers, in whispered accounts and anonymous reports, describe the same sensation. A presence in the deep, immense and patient, stalking without sound. And history hints at the same pattern. Vanishing ships, lost submarines, and unexplained wrecks scattered across distant oceans. Something lurks in the dark, a force that remembers, that hunts, that waits for the next curious soul to descend. Story 4. The Ghost Ship of Blackwater Bay. I'll never forget the night we saw her, drifting silently in Blackwater Bay, a ship with peeling paint and tattered sails, yet moving as if powered by some unseen wind. We had been running a routine survey, charting the coastline when the fog rolled in thick and wet, hiding the world beyond a few meters. Then, through the grey haze, the silhouette appeared. "Do you see that?" Mark whispered, his voice tight with disbelief. "It can't be," I replied, gripping the railing as the ship glided closer. No crew was visible, yet the rigging creaked as though hands unseen were pulling ropes. A lantern flickered from the main deck, revealing figures, ghostly and pale, moving in slow, deliberate patterns, their mouths opening and closing without sound. "Welcome," one figure finally spoke, though the voice was hollow, echoing unnaturally over the water. "You've wandered where you shouldn't." I froze. staring as they seemed to pass through each other, bodies overlapping like mist, yet fully formed. The air smelled of brine and decay, a mixture that made my stomach churn. Mark grabbed my arm, eyes wide. "We should leave. Now." But my curiosity, my morbid need to understand, rooted me to the spot. Legends call it Blackwater's Curse, a stretch of water where sailors vanish without a trace, where ships return carrying no living souls. The stories claim the spirits are not malicious. They are memories, echoes of those claimed by the bay, trapped forever between the tides. And yet, as we backed away, I could swear one of them reached toward us, fingers grazing the hull, whispering warnings that made the hair on my neck stand on end. We escaped that night, but survivors rarely speak. And some nights, when the fog rolls in thick and the tide is wrong, she drifts again. The ghost ship of Blackwater Bay is out there, waiting, and she's not alone. Other vessels have vanished along the same cursed waters, their fates tied to something older, something patient, lurking just beneath the surface, watching for the next curious crew to wander too close. Story 5. The Abyssal Entity. We were hundreds of meters below the surface, inside the cramped pressure hull of our research submersible, when the readings went haywire. Sonar pulses bounced back impossible echoes. Something massive, moving with intent. Something that shouldn't exist in any known catalogue of marine life. I pressed my face to the viewport. The dim glow of our instruments casting eerie shadows across the cabin. And then I saw it. It was enormous, larger than any whale, but with angles and movements that defied biology. Its eyes, if you could call them that, reflected a cold, calculating intelligence. The sub's lights barely touched its form, yet every detail was unmistakable. Textured ridges along its body, tentacle-like appendages curling in patterns that suggested thought, awareness. I wanted to take notes, to rationalize it scientifically, but words failed me. My mind reeled between awe and terror. "Do you see it?" One of my team whispered, voice trembling. We all did, and then came the realization. This wasn't random. Every maneuver we made, every adjustment to our course, it mirrored, anticipating. It was studying us, cataloging us, as if we were just another specimen in its endless dark. My hand shook as I recorded depth, pressure, and movement. Yet I knew none of it mattered. Knowledge would not protect us. Minutes, or was it hours, passed in a tense, suffocating silence. The submersible creaked under the pressure, but it was nothing compared to the weight of being observed by something that had existed long before humans ever mapped the oceans. When it finally moved away, gliding silently into the black, I felt both relief and a deeper dread. We returned to the surface shaken, our data inconclusive, but the truth was undeniable. The abyss is home to things we are not meant to understand. Creatures of unimaginable scale, intelligence, and patience dwell in waters so remote, so alien, that our presence is fleeting and insignificant. And I know, somewhere out there, others like it wait, silently observing, waiting for the next descent into their domain. Story 6. The Siren Song. I always laughed at sailors' tales, the mermaids, the sirens, the songs that supposedly lured men to their deaths. Stories to keep fools off the rocks, I'd mutter, shaking my head as the waves slapped against the hull. But that night, alone at the wheel, I began to understand how easy it is to mock what you cannot see. It started as a hum, almost imperceptible, over the creak of the ship and the wind whipping through the rigging. I rubbed my ears. "Just the wind," I said, trying to keep a grin on my face. But the hum grew, shaping into a melody that seeped into my bones, pulling at something I didn't know was there. My senses twisted. The water looked darker, the stars too bright, the horizon curving in ways that made my stomach lurch. I found myself leaning over the rail, drawn toward the sound, my mind torn between fear and fascination. "It's impossible," I whispered, yet my legs moved without permission. The melody wound tighter around me, a hypnotic thread I couldn't break, tugging me closer to the unseen depths. And then, for a moment, I thought I saw her, a pale figure, perched on a jagged rock, eyes glinting in the moonlight, watching, waiting. I laughed nervously, trying to shake the terror. Right, a siren. But even as I said it, the melody grew sharper, more insistent, promising both ecstasy and doom. I knew then that these songs were not myth. They were invitations, warnings, and traps all at once. And somewhere, just beyond the reach of the waves, that figure lingered, observing, patient, as the ocean claimed yet another fool willing to listen. Story 7. The Submerged Village. I wasn't supposed to be there. The locals warned me. Some waters hide things best left alone, they said. But curiosity had a stubborn hold on me. The storm had passed, leaving glassy calm, and I took my small boat into the bay, peering into the unusually clear water. That's when I saw it. Rooftops, streets, and the faint outline of houses beneath the waves, perfectly preserved, as though the village had been frozen in time. At first, awe gripped me. The craftsmanship, the arrangement, the sheer impossibility of it. It was breathtaking. This can't be real, I whispered to myself, my voice trembling with excitement. I lowered my dive gear, ignoring the growing knot in my stomach, and descended into the silence. Fish swirled around the submerged dirt streets, and sunlight fractured across the windows of houses that had long been abandoned above water. But disbelief quickly shifted to terror. Doors creaked despite the water's stillness. Shadows seemed to flit along the alleyways. And a chill, unnatural and persistent, wrapped around me. I felt eyes, countless unseen gazes, watching from behind cracked shutters and broken walls. Every instinct screamed to leave, but some part of me, foolish, reckless, pressed on as I surfaced, gasping for air. The village shimmered beneath me like a dark jewel, beautiful yet horrifying. I knew then that some discoveries are meant to remain hidden. Their stories whispered only in warnings and old legends. The ocean holds its secrets close, and those who pry too deeply often pay a price. Just as the vanishing crews, ghost ships, and abyssal entities hinted, there are corners of this world the sea refuses to forgive. Story 8. The Kraken's Reach. The alarm screamed through the ship, metal clanging and lights flashing as something massive collided with the hull. "What the hell was that?" the first mate shouted, panic lacing his voice. I grabbed the railing, heart hammering, watching as enormous, sinuous tentacles erupted from the depths, wrapping around the vessel with terrifying precision. "Cut the engines! Drop the lifeboats!" another voice yelled. But it was useless. The creature's strength was beyond comprehension. Bending steel and snapping cables like twigs, waves crashed over the deck, each one carrying the stench of brine and something older, something alive and intelligent. I shouted into the chaos, trying to rally the crew, but fear had already claimed them, paralyzing any thought of resistance. It was no mindless beast. Every movement suggested calculation, anticipation. When a massive eye emerged above the waves, locking onto us, I felt the full weight of helplessness. A knowledge that this force wasn't just hunting. It was studying, choosing, testing. We barely escaped. The ship battered, the water eerily calm once it receded, leaving only questions. Reports surfaced later. Other ships had experienced similar encounters. Tentacled nightmares in deep waters, vanishing crews, missing cargo. I don't know if it's stalking humanity or merely curious, but one thing is certain: the deep remembers, and sometimes it reaches up to remind us that we are never truly safe on its surface. Story 9. The ocean floor whispers. I'd been diving in uncharted territory, following sonar blips that didn't match any known formations. The water was heavy and dark, pressing against me with a weight that made every movement laborious. And then I saw them. Symbols etched into the seabed, geometries impossible to describe, carved with a precision that suggested intelligence far beyond human understanding. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as I floated above them, mesmerized, terrified, unable to look away. At first, I tried to rationalize them. Currents, volcanic formations, random sediment patterns. But the more I stared, the more deliberate they seemed, as if each line, curve, and circle carried meaning, a message meant for someone or something. My thoughts raced. Who had left them? And the deeper I descended, the stronger the sense that I was being watched, that the ocean itself was aware of my intrusion. I reached for my camera, hands trembling, only to realize the memory card was gone, swallowed by water, or perhaps deliberately erased. I laughed nervously, muttering to myself, "Great, just my luck." But the laughter sounded hollow, swallowed almost immediately by a low hum emanating from the symbols themselves. I wanted to leave, to surface, and forget what I'd seen. But something compelled me to stay, to understand. History hinted at similar findings, scattered reports of divers disappearing, crews silenced, artifacts lost to the depths. The whispers from the ocean floor weren't just echoes, they were warnings. And as I transmitted my final coordinates before the signal cut, I knew the last known transmission would never truly reach anyone. The ocean had claimed its witness, and its stories were far from over. Story 10. The last transmission static, a crackle, then a voice, ragged, terrified, almost swallowed by the hiss of the radio. Mayday, Mayday. We're something's. The words broke apart, fragmented, replaced by a low, gurgling roar that made the hairs on my neck stand on end. I replayed the recording countless times, piecing together fragments, shouts, water crashing over metal, a whispered warning I could barely make out. "It's watching." I could almost feel the panic through the audio, the way the crew's courage dissolved into helpless terror. Each syllable carried the weight of inevitability, of something ancient and patient waiting beneath the waves. I tried to imagine the scene, a vessel tossed like a toy, Men and women screaming into the void, an unseen force stalking, calculating, claiming. My stomach churned. And then nothing. Silence, except for the static that never quite left, like the ocean itself was listening, breathing, aware. The signal never returned, the ship never reported, and the voices were gone, except in the memory of the transmission, the lingering echo of a terror, too vast to name. Some things the ocean does not release. Some horrors remain, patient and awake, waiting for the next voice to call out and the next soul to answer. After everything I've recounted, you might be wondering if any of it is real, or if it's just the product of imagination run wild. I assure you, every detail, every encounter, every whisper from the depths is rooted in the incomprehensible truth. The ocean is vast, ancient, and indifferent to human life. In its cold embrace, we are nothing more than fleeting shadows, fragile and temporary, glimpsed by forces that have existed long before us and will endure long after we are gone. Patterns emerge when you look closely. Disappearances, ghost ships, enormous creatures lurking just beyond the light of our instruments. All signs of something patient, something intelligent, something that remembers every vessel, every diver, every foolish soul who dares to intrude. It's a realm where our understanding is meaningless, where curiosity can be both our greatest asset and our deadliest mistake. And yet, despite all the terror, the unknown continues to call, whispering for us to bear witness to what no one else can or should. I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt the ocean watching? Sensed something just beyond your perception? Or experienced a brush with the unknown? Share your stories, your theories, your nightmares in the comments below. Compare notes with others who have peered too deeply into the abyss. Together, we trace the edges of what the world refuses to explain, and in doing so, we honor both the mystery and the danger that lies beneath the waves. But remember, the ocean does not sleep. It does not forget. For every story I've shared, countless more remain untold, preserved in silence, waiting. Some of them are still out there, active, patient, observing. And while we return to our lives, warm and dry on solid ground, the depths continue to stir, plotting, watching, remembering, even when you think you're safe, even when the waves seem calm. There are forces beneath that horizon you cannot imagine. Forces that are awake. Forces that are waiting. And so, I leave you with this. Listen to the wind. Watch the water. Respect the abyss. Because even when you sleep, it waits beneath the waves, watching,